Hello, everybody. I have Keelan with me. After like half a year, we haven't seen each other for so long. And my second guest, because we wanted to try something new, is Jimmy from Elbowsdowngp. We actually planned on having his podcast partner Alex as well, and he got sick, so unfortunately, he's just the only representative of the Elbows Down GP podcast. So, hello, Jimmy, and glad
Okay.
that I have you on. Today, we would like to talk about the 24 season predictions. Just have some fun with it, roll with it. Whatever comes up, comes up, and I'm excited to see how this threesome goes.
Not the first time anyone's ever said that, Leo.
So yeah, basically, Jimmy, for everybody who doesn't know you, please introduce yourself. Tell everybody what you're doing for a living, because I think it's quite interesting. And everybody who uses Twitter basically has seen your name because you're on there all day, I believe.
Oh dear,
And
yeah.
talk a little
Uh,
bit about your podcast.
Well, the podcast was born out of the campsite in Silverstone last year, actually. Me and Alex's girlfriends were saying, you guys just, it's just when we see each other, even if it's at a pub or on a walk or whatever, we're talking about MotoGP, and massively in depth as well. And they were like, you guys have to start a podcast. Obviously, I did a blog between 2013 and 2015, and I was paying my own money for paddock passes through a team experience company that are quite well known now. And so I went to Mugello, I went to Brno, Valencia, Silverstone, a couple of years running, switching different races here and there. And I would, be in the paddock with a guest pass, not even a media pass, and I would try and get interviews with Moto2, Moto3 riders and whatnot. So that sort of died off when I moved to York, which is the nearest city. I'll have to live on my own, and I couldn't afford to go to races. So all that was sort of put on hold, and then I started going to the races again after COVID with a better job, which I'll get to in a second, and now I can afford to go to races again, and I'm doing this again. But yeah, I sell protective motorcycle equipment, helmets, gloves, boots, everything, apart from the bike and parts. That's what I do for a living. So helmet fittings, Alpine Stars, Tech Air 5 stuff to, showy SBR Pro race lids. We do all that. Flip up helmets for delivery riders, everything. That's what we do. That's what I do. Alex does something else completely different. But yeah. But obviously, since I was 5, I was going to superbike races at Donington Park. I've been going to racing my entire life. Obsessed with MotoGP and superbikes. Not as much as I used to with the superbikes, but yeah, I was a car person for a long time. Don't really follow Formula One as much as I used to. Ever since sort of COVID, I've lost interest really. But yeah, I've been to 22 MotoGPs since I was a kid. So yeah, a bit of a nut there. And yeah, as Leo says, a bit outspoken on Twitter. I sometimes have to rein it in a bit. But yeah. But some people follow me in the paddock, and I think, God, I wonder what they must think of me. But they haven't unfollowed me, so there we go.
The thing is, when I scroll through Twitter, because that's like my main source of MotoGP information at the moment, because I'm kind of pissed off at Instagram, and I don't really see why I should use the third account now when Twitter just doesn't ban me. I mean, Elon's out there, free speech and stuff, while Meta is pulling shit, and so yeah, I just don't get the right feeling on Instagram at the moment. So I'm mainly using Twitter for the memes and stuff. And basically my whole Twitter feed consists of you commentating under something, like whatever post, there's something that you commented under. And yeah, that's basically my Twitter experience. So thanks.
My girlfriend's going to find this hilarious.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's nice because through you, I figured out that Dan Rosamondo, the what is he, chief commercial officer of MotoGP, or like Dorna, is actually responding to your tweets. So
he's done a few actually.
Yeah. So that's quite nice. And like basically a lot of people maybe know, I made a podcast with Matty Patterson about the whole subject when he got into office. And I thought of maybe reaching out to him and doing a podcast with him if he's interested. So, yeah, let's see how this one goes. And Keelin, I don't know if I'm supposed to tell the story, but I'm just telling it anyway, almost got a job with Dorna. So, yeah.
Nice.
Going over to the dark side, to the evil empire.
Yeah, that's we don't talk about extremes in that way, but yeah, almost happened, wasn't quite the right fit, but who knows, further down the line, maybe I work from the inside, open the floodgates for BadMotoGP to finally get into the paddock. Who knows? Who knows if that's the direction we're trending in?
Honestly, as shitty as Dorna appears to be, everybody who works for Dorna that I've gotten to know is super friendly.
Yeah.
Super nice people.
I've done a few podcast episodes before with Lila Oakes, you might have heard of. She works for Dorna now. She got a job with Dorna. She, obviously I've got a thing about liveries and stuff, and I love that. And but Lila's noticed stuff from decals that you wouldn't have even thought of, like throughout all sports. Like, oh, they're doing this now, they're doing that. That's what she does, and she's fantastic. She's really, really friendly. Yeah, works for Dorna now. I don't exactly know her title, and it's not really my business. We message each other now and again. So. Yeah, but I mean, Jack. You've spoke to Jack Gorse a few times. Obviously, he's really good at what he does. Actually.
Super nice.
And as soon as I saw his name, I thought, "Where's that name? I recognise that name." And I was like, "Oh yeah, isn't his dad work for Castrol Honda World Superbike team amongst other teams?" I was like, "I wonder if that's his son," and it is. So
yeah.
So,
actually, at the first episode we did, he touched onto that. But now that we've gotten to know each other more. But you talked about liveries. What do you think about the Pramac livery? Do you like the black or not?
I thought at first, oh, okay, that shouldn't work. That just shouldn't work. But it kind of, it does work when, there's a shot of them coming back into the grid area, the Bahrain track. It's like a TV still. And it does look better when they're on it, I think. But we won't really know until Friday, but I thought it looked a bit different. I don't know if it's a weight saving thing. I don't know at all. It may be just a different way of rebranding, but I thought it looked a bit more striking. I don't know why they've put Dayglow red on the front wings. It makes them look like it looks like a handguard. They could have split that in two different colours, like black and purple, but that's just me being pedantic. But yeah, I know a lot of people hate it and some people love it. What about you two?
I think the white one is better. But I fucking hate the new Valentino Rossi livery. It just looks awful. It looks worse on track than it does in the studio, I believe. It's just like a yellow text marker riding around on a circle.
At first, I didn't mind that. Yeah, I don't know why half the leathers, it's asymmetric, isn't it? The leathers are half yellow, half white as well on one side. So yeah, it'll take a lot of growing. But fair play for VR46 to trying something really different. I'll say that much. I think you'll both agree there.
Guys, speaking of liveries, that LCR Castrol livery, oh my God, would.
The absolute one, innit? The absolute one.
Finally. Definitely the best one on the grid.
Yeah.
Masterpiece.
It is. And it's they did it one-off one like that for 2017, I think, at Silverstone with Cal. And that was it. And they hadn't gone back to it since. It's just been like a generic modern graphic that didn't really. I don't think they'll have it all the way year round. The Castrol LCR don't do that, do they? Some races it won't be Castrol. I don't believe they'll have something else there, won't they? For some rounds, that's what LCR do.
Well, yeah, that's what they did in the past. But I really hope that
it'll be the same issue.
I'm happy to buy my oil from Castrol if they put it on all year, because the other ones kind of suck. Like, they look like a toothpaste ones.
Yeah. But they've actually tidied up the Idemitsu one as well. That looks nicer.
It does. It looks cleaner, actually.
Cleaner, that's the word. Yeah.
I can't recall. I can't recall at the moment. I don't know.
Yeah, that looks a bit tidy. So yeah, lovely liveries there, to be fair.
What do you think about the Honda?
Repsol,
Yeah.
unfinished. It looks like an afterthought. I'd liked it and I didn't. I did like it initially and I didn't. The leathers, I think Lila was saying it's supposed to be like that, but the leathers don't make sense to me. The one half is red, white, and blue, like we thought it would be, like the test bike, and then the other half is Repsol. I don't know. I think it would have been nicer to. I think I saw some graphic designer do the same livery, but put a white base on it, and it looked way better. I think Simon Patterson was reposted it, and he was, I agreed with him there. It did look better. So not a massive fan, but I don't know if we'll see much of it anyway.
What do you think, Keelan?
I gotta be honest, with the Repsol livery, it's a real it's definitely split the fan base, let's put it that way. A bit like with the VR46 that Jimmy said, I rate very much that they've tried something different, because for years they got slandered for having the same bike for like 16, 17 years. It was exactly the same. So in that regard, I very much respect that they've tried something new. The problem is, I don't think it's quite landed as well as it could have. I think there's a bit too much navy in there. I think if they'd have broken it up with more white and the navy was like a trim as opposed to the main color, I think it would have gone down a lot better. But I applaud them for trying it. I mean, I like that they've done it very different. I can certainly respect that. It's not as glaring as the Trackhouse Team America bike, though. That was an interesting one.
What the fuck is a kilometer?
I'm expecting Gary Johnston to pop out of the paddock on Friday.
You know, I have a theory that Repsol Honda is not able to run the same livery because Repsol pulled the funds after Marquez went to Ducati, and I believe that if they could, they would have completely got out of the team. But apparently, I think there's some kind of contract where they just reduced it to the minimum they could. And if the contract expires, they will head elsewhere or out of the paddock, because I think Repsol fell in love with Mark so much that it just doesn't make sense now, since Honda isn't performing as well. So, yeah. But Honda looked good at the tests compared to last year.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I have to admit, this will never happen, which is a real shame. And anybody under the age of 35 probably won't know what we're talking about. I'd love to see a Rothmans Honda on the grid again. That's one of the most beautiful liveries ever created by anybody. I'd love to see that again.
It's just classy, isn't it? It's just classy.
It is. It just works. It just flows all along the bike. And Marlboro Yamaha, that would be great.
Yeah, the day glow of the red, the bright. When you see those cars and the bikes in person, it's actually almost orange. The Marlboro red. It's not actually, and it looks fantastic. It looks really, really cool. There was someone posting last night who I know, Caparossi's 1995 Rossini or Pilari Yamaha, Marlboro Yamaha, and it had like a little yellow Gip sticker just on the side, tiny little yellow. Oh, that is the one. With the chrome helmet, I thought, oh, yeah. Anyway, moving on.
I actually hate when people complain about teams not changing a livery, like KTM or Repsol Honda for long. Why change it if it's good the way it is? Like, in my opinion, Honda made it worse. So why should you change it? Like, obviously, if there's something with the sponsor, you can't really work around it. But in my opinion, if you have a good livery, why change it? You can have those iconic McLaren liveries over 10 years, which look the same, or like more or less what Red Bull is doing. They're not changing the livery too much, and I think it's kind of iconic.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I do think that what would finish off the Red Bull KTM livery, it's on my Twitter, if they had just a thin orange trim on the wheel. Just a thin on the edge of it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Would just finish it off. And funnily enough, I just got on my iPad and edited it, and it works. Or bright red, because of the red on the Red Bull. But yeah, little things like that. But again, it doesn't really matter. It works. It looks good at the track. It looks good on the person. I mean, they changed it in 2022, put a white base around the red, and they haven't changed it since. And why would they? Because, as you said, Marlboro liveries were unchanged for 10 years plus. The Rothmans livery didn't really change when that was around. From 84 till 92, it was pretty much unchanged, wasn't it? Because it works.
Why would they? Yeah, why would they? Regarding the MotoGP season, let's run through our predictions and discuss them, because I don't know if you listen to our previous episodes. We usually have our normal categories: who will be champion, but then who will be like rookie of the year, who will be the biggest disappointment, and we have our bold predictions, and I really love those bold predictions. Last year, I predicted Joan Mir will get onto the podium and Marc Marquez will lead the championship at one point, so it backfired hugely, and I really hope that this year I can make some better predictions. But last year, those were my unofficial bold predictions. I predicted that crypto data wouldn't last the season. I mean,
you were half right.
Sort of true, I think. And that Kazakhstan or India won't happen, and Kazakhstan obviously didn't happen. So I just throw the Joan Mir and Marc Marquez predictions out of the window, and will adapt those two to my resume. Just put it in my CV. So yeah, let's talk about the MotoGP World Champion. I would like to begin with you, Keelan. Who is your pick for MotoGP World Champion? Because after picking Enea Bastianini last year, you have to do a better job now.
Yeah, that was a shocker last year. I'll own up to that. That was just a biblical L. Yeah, this is the award for the least imaginative pick of all time. It's going to be Pecco Bagnaia. I don't think we really need to spend too much time on this. He's the best rider on the grid at the moment, on the best bike, was brilliant last year. He'll be brilliant this year. Pecco Bagnaia retains his title.
If he stays sober.
If he stays sober. That's an important caveat to that.
Who's yours?
Pecco Bagnaia.
Yeah,
that
mine
was a bit of an
too.
anticlimax, and it was nearly an air. And by the way, Keelan, you weren't to know that he was going to get injured, so I think that was a fair guess last year. But yeah, Pecco, just because he's grown up now, I think I say that he crashed in India when everyone thought, really.
Yeah, that's drunk Pecco.
So I say that, like, I still think he's got that edge. Having said that, it was close, and then he picked every reason I was going to say why Keelan's just said. But I think he's got that edge over Anaya. But I nearly picked Anaya. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if it was between those two and Anaya does pip him. Because if Anaya gets back into his mojo, he is still, I think, the best rider on the grid at saving tyres.
Yes.
If you remember his 2022, he was just fantastic at saving his tyres. So yeah, but for Pecco, for me, just that role, he's got that. Also, he's got that protection from Ducati now. I think it's almost a bit like the Seb and Max thing. Red Bull, he's protected, and if Enea starts getting big money deals offers from Aprilia or something, then they'll definitely protect Pecco even more.
Yeah.
So psychologically, I think he's going to be the best because he's just re-signed as well. So I think that strengthens my pick for Pecco. Sorry,
I would have respected you more, Keelan, if you doubled down on Enea.
Oh, Leo, give me a break. What did you want me to say? Jorge Martin? Come on.
I mean, yeah, why not? No, but as far as I understood, the new Ducati is working a lot in Enea's favor, because he had some issues braking last year, and apparently with the new engine they fixed those. So I definitely expect Enea to be strong, but I think Pecco, he has the confidence of world champion. He did it 2 times, and I think he will do it again. It's quite easy to agree on this one. So let's move forward to hopefully a more interesting debate. Who's your Moto2 world champion, Keelan?
Yeah, Moto 2, I actually think is going to be a brilliant championship this year. I think we've got a lot of riders showing a lot of potential. And one of my old legendary picks is going to show up in Moto 2. I won't reveal it just yet, but you'll see as we go along. As far as the champion goes, my prediction is Fermin Aldeguer. And the reason why is I think he's carrying a lot of momentum from the tail end of last season. And I think if he can carry that into the first few races of this season, we've seen how hard he is to stop. And I think if he can channel that, he can do some real damage in the early first half of this season. Additionally, he's looked really good in testing. He seems comfortable. He seems good. And to be honest, I think when he's on form, he's the best rider in Moto 2. So for me, maybe again a little bit of a boring pick, but I do think Fermin Aldeguer, this is a really good chance for him to pick up silverware.
You, Jimmy?
I've got the same person. Honestly, I couldn't think of if his form for the last 4 races last year is anything to go by. And this does rely, yes, it does rely a bit, I think, on the Pirellis, but he's already quick in the test. I think he'll be fine. I can't see past him really. There is. I think his challenges is going to be. Actually, I think he's going to get really challenged by Ayagura. I think if you look at his times, he's actually adapted to that bike very quickly. Either that or it's the Pirellis. So because there's 2 more Bosses-Giras on the grid now, so that's going to be harder. The likes of, I mean, I nearly picked someone like Jake. I thought no, and I thought, what about Canet? No, Canet won't win again. So no, I think it's got to be Fermin really. People like Roberts and Salach might surprise, but I think I nearly went for someone really outlandish just to be safer because I thought we'd all pick the same person. I was going to go Gonzalez or like Ramirez or someone like that.
You know, my girlfriend picked Manu as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think
he's saying Manu.
I think he's got
a respectable pick.
But yeah, it was, yeah. But I didn't. I went for Fermin, so yeah, I think he's just very composed and he knows now how to win races and just clear off. He can just pull the pin when he wants to. So, Fermin.
I think Celestino Vietti. And
really,
let me elaborate. Me elaborate. Aki Ayo is the best team principal. This team just knows how to win.
Agreed.
They won with Remy, they won with Augusto and with Pedro, 3 championships in a row. As far as I understood from what Remy told me, the team is organized to perfection. Everybody does what they do and nothing else. Like no chaos, no nothing. They just keep their heads down and work. And I think this is super important. I think Celestino Vietti is a phenomenal rider if he stays on the bike. And I think the 22 season really showed how good he can be, but also showed a lot of his flaws. Where in 23 it looked like he was kind of struggling to get his confidence back, and then when he got it back, for example in Austria, he was unstoppable. So I think that Aki Ayo can make a world champion out of Celestino Vietti, like give him this little extra edge. And regarding Fermin, I have my opinion as well, but we will get to this later on.
Yeah.
So let's go to Moto 3, where usually we just close our eyes and throw a dart at a wall where all the riders hang, and whoever lands can win the championship, because it's so unpredictable, but we still try to do it. So who do you think is Moto 3 world champion at the end of the year, Keelan?
Yeah, Moto 3 might be my favorite motorsport class of any sport in the world, because it is just...
I'm so excited.
It's so good every single week. Like you said, Leo, and I agree, I could literally put everybody in a dartboard, throw a dart, and I'd be happy probably with whatever I pick. The most educated guess I can make is I was going to go for... do I say who the other one was going to be? No, I won't say because I don't want to spoil it if you guys have it. I think the best educated guess I can make is David Alonso. But like I said, who the hell knows in this bloody class? He was really good last year, won some races, looked really, really good on that bike. And I think if he can qualify towards the front and not get involved in the pinball wreckage that happens in the first turn of every race, I think he's got as good a chance as anybody. Best educated guess I can put forward, David Alonso. But there was another one I was going to pick, but I won't say it.
This is going to look a bit unoriginal now, but it is David Alonso for me as well. It's just really, really just the way he's in a group of 20 and he can just think I'll just sit here and then I'll have you all on the last lap, and that's happened a few times. And he's still got so much potential. He's got arguably one of the best, if not the second best team in Moto3. If you class Aki Ayo's team the best, so again, I think he's got the team around him. He's their golden boy at the moment. I think, I think it's got to be Alonso, really, personally, and he's looking really good in testing as well. Again, it's just testing that. Yeah, I think and Keelan's already covered up the rest of what he can do. So for me, it's David.
I'm very excited to see how the Pirellis will affect it, because I talked with Simon Grafer about this a lot, and he said the Pirellis have a totally different philosophy of approaching racing than Dunlop. Dunlop is very safe. You can go 2 race distances with them, have the fastest lap of the race in the last lap. And the Pirellis are apparently a lot different. Remy says in World Superbike they have a lot more grip because they're not as stiff. They allow the bike to move. So we will see how this one will affect Moto 3 and Moto 2, of course. And my pick is Colin, because I think this kid is a gangster. He is so incredibly good, and I think he has a little bit more balls to fight in the pack and really hand it out more times than he receives. I think Colin really has a chance to win the world championship.
I respect it. I like it a lot. You know me. I'm a Colin Vire fan, so I'm not going to argue with you.
Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because, he gave me this. This one is his. In Jerez 22, when he was riding in the Rookies Cup, we talked a little, and he gave me this one. He was actually about to give it to a grid girl, but they decided to give it to me, so I have to appreciate it. And this one is Eddie O'Shea. So, yeah.
You
Obviously,
I'm Colin Vire for a visor.
I didn't. It was his choice. So he actually told me the story.
Yeah, of course it was his choice.
Yeah, he texted me like, "Hey mate, are you there? I have a surprise for you." I was like, "Of course." And I was in the last corner in Jerez, in the Jorge Lorenzo corner, and there's like a bridge before the basically where the paddock starts. So he walked over this bridge, and we met there and talked a little, and he gave it to me. I didn't even ask. So yeah, cool. I have to return the favor by pick him in as a world champion and hopefully manifest it. So, but David Alonso, I totally agree that he is like the favorite. But I've learned one thing. If there's a preseason favorite in Moto3 to win the championship, he usually doesn't win the championship.
Yeah, that's true as well. I mean, I almost thought at the end, sorry, I'm going to go for Mark, MotoGP, because he'll just prove everyone wrong. Even though the 24 Ducati looks that much better, it's Mark. But I thought no, I still no. But yeah, for Moto3, I know Keelan's not telling you who I was going to pick, but I mean, I think we all know that like Volgado is still going to be there. But yeah, we'll see. I think it's also who's going to keep their head, because we don't know how many, if we're going to have big trains anymore with these tyres, because if they start degrading because they're over the race, and the last 5 laps are going to be more wear arguably than before from what we've heard. So we don't know if the trains are going to start breaking up and who's looked after the time, or it might not be. It might just be flat out till the end. Might get away with it certain tracks. So, but yeah, I still think Alonso anyway. So rant over.
Yeah, apparently you have to. That's what Simon told me. You have to put more thought on how you're going to set up the bike and use the tire. He didn't say that you necessarily have to manage it with the throttle too much, because it still has a lot of grip and those bikes don't really use up the tire too much. But you have to manage it in a different way. So, like with setting up how you approach the weekend, which tire you choose. So I'm very excited to see how this one plays out. And I'm still eager to find out what was your second pick, Keelan. Because I think in Moto3 you can have 3 picks and probably be wrong as well.
I was going to say Jose Antonio Rueda.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Just shot on from a hype. Thanks for that.
No, the reason I think Jose Antonio Rueda won't win the championship is the podcast I did with Eddie O'Shea. And basically what he told me is he raced against Jose in Red Bull Rookies and in the Junior GP. When he's on a Honda, this Honda suits his riding style perfectly. And the KTM is more like a stop and go thing, which sounds a little bit stupid in Moto3, but it's more than the Honda is. So you have to be a little bit more like in the corner in a V shape than with the Honda. The Honda is very flowing. And basically what he said is that Jose is so good in using the Honda to build up speed, and the KTM isn't really the bike which suits his strength. So I don't know how the new KTM is. Could be that the new KTM is totally different, and that because he was super fast in the test as well. But I don't think that Jose will be world champion because of this.
Hey, it's fair. I'm not going to argue with you, and I'm not going to argue with Eddie O'Shea either.
I mean, it's Moto3. At the end of the day, if you cross out Ana Carrasco, everybody can be world champion. So
I didn't say that.
But she is riding in the women's world championship now, right?
Yeah, that's
or
true.
is she still in the no? She isn't in the Moto3 paddock anymore, right?
No, she's in the new women's championship. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so MotoGP Rookie of the Year is obvious. It's our Lord and Savior Pedro Acosta. But we have a different category, the best rider with the new manufacturer. So, Keelin, who's your pick there?
Yep, this is where it gets very original for me because I'm not taking the low hanging fruit. I was gonna see. I have two choices. Do you want me to tell you them both? Because neither of you will have picked them.
Okay.
Okay, the first choice was going to be Franco Morbidelli at Pramac, but he's injured again, so that sadly doesn't really count. The pick I will go with is Alex Rins at Yamaha. Again, you wanted original, you got it. You created this monster, Leo. But yeah, I've been a long time Alex Rins fan. The Honda tried to kill him, very nearly succeeded, sadly. The Yamaha, for all of its faults and for being a go kart basically on a MotoGP track, it suits his style a lot better. That nobody can argue, and it does seem in pre-season they've at least found a little bit more speed. So I'm hoping Alex Rins can make something of a difference, and he'll be the best rider on a new bike. Alex Rins to Yamaha.
Good show.
No, it
Yes,
isn't.
Jimmy?
No, it's not. It's going to be Mark Marquez, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know. I did this to myself.
No,
Yeah.
it's a good show, and bouncing off that, I think that is the best pairing Yamaha could possibly have with that thing right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Fantastic lineup, and it's almost as if they don't deserve those two riders.
Yeah.
Frankly, and I like it when I see them speaking to one another. I think they're in safe hands. Just listen to these guys, and then book 75 tests, please, now with these guys. So yeah, that's good news. But yeah, still, Mark on a Ducati. I think we haven't seen the best from him yet. I think some people are a bit nervous playing him down a bit. I think we all are because of the testing performance from the GP24s. Mark, when he needs to put in a qualifying lap for a start, he will be braking a bit deeper than he would in a test. I just feel like he's going to have that bit more because he won't be scared to crash and injure himself before the start of the season. So when it comes to Q2, which he will get to, I think he's going to be on every chance of getting on the front row. People are saying Mark said himself that he doesn't know really, even on a good bike, how long the effects are of the injuries. Is he going to be the same person before? I still think even if he isn't, he's still twice the rider that some of these riders are anyway. So Mark on a Ducati, as soon as he's still got some adaptation to do, hasn't he? We've seen he's not lying there, but Mark will be winning races. He'll be winning Austin. He'll be winning Saxonry. You can guarantee that almost. So yeah, Mark will have the best transition to a new manufacturer.
Yeah, I laid down on my stomach to pick the low-hanging fruit because it was so low, and I picked Marc Marquez again. And I think, Keelan, you might be right if Marc Marquez is in a hospital again, but if he stays healthy, even if he rides half the season, I don't see him being worse than a Yamaha.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, but still a real possibility with Mark.
Oh god, yeah. It's just, I don't know. I'm I'm a self-confessed Yamaha fan, so I really want it to work, but I just know it isn't going to. And look, Mark's just going to be so good this season. I have no doubt he's going to adapt to that thing, and when he adapts, oh my god, he's going to take some stopping.
Yeah.
Can I predict your Moto2 Rookie of the Year?
Go
Keelin?
ahead.
Dennis Önci?
Boom, we have a winner. The Turkish terrorist is back and better than ever. Deniz Oncu, Moto2 Rookie of the Year. Let's have it.
He is my Rookie of the Year as well.
Oh, for goodness sake, and he's mine.
Yeah,
So,
okay. So,
brilliant. So that wasn't a bit of an anticlimax.
yeah, I mean, but I think it's a little bit obvious again. He's in the best team. He has always been too big for Moto 3. So now he's on a Moto 2 bike, which should suit him. And he's such a gangster. I mean, I remember very well when he was insulting me on Instagram and stuff, but I mean, he made some progress, and I think Aki Ayo really benefited him last season because Tech 3 is just a mess, and quite frankly, Dennis Önci was a mess too. But I really think that he is in the right team. He got his anger issues sorted out more or less, but still is a little bit on the edge, so that's always fun. And I think therefore it's the obvious pick. I don't think Jaume Masia, I don't think Ayumu Sasaki.
One of my highlights of last season was when he tried to kill David Munoz. Do you remember?
Honestly, this is the best moment I've seen all season in Moto 3. When he dive bombed in the last corner there and took out David Munoz. Like, out of all people, David Munoz, who's been dive bombing ever since he's been to Moto 3 and has taken out so many riders, that he is the one on the receiving end was hilarious to me. And then it was Dennis Onchu.
I actually defended Dennis.
Yeah, I think so too. Like,
and
if there's
other
a
people
gap
were saying, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Of course, he's going to be on the inside there. If Munoz has gone that wide, he's not going to not go for it. And then Munoz comes back on as if he's not there. So yeah, that was it. And that face of Dennis in the pits. I can see it now. It looked like he wanted to lump him. Yeah, it was quite funny.
So yeah, and Moto 3 Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Angel Piqueras, reigning, Junior Moto 3 World Champion. Won the title last year with, I think, 2 races to spare. The type of talent we're getting out of these championships now is just different level. And I think we're seeing that they already adapt better to new championships than anybody that's gone before them. So for me, Angel Piqueras is probably Moto 3 Rookie of the Year by the time we're sat here next year.
Yeah, I put this. I nearly didn't though because of the Honda. I'm hearing a lot about the Honda going backwards. There's not many progress where the KTM has made a massive step. But then the Leopard seems to have that bit extra on all of the Hondas anyway, every year. So I think looking at his resume, it's up there with some of the greats. He literally has killed it. So we could be looking at another Pedro, even though I think a lot of us make a habit of saying, "Oh, the next Marquez and all that." But Piqueras' CV is just incredible. I don't think it'll take him that long to get up there. So yeah, I mean, Jakob Rolston was up there for me though. He's adapted really quick amongst these guys. So, but yeah, Piqueras will have the edge on him, I think, for me.
And my understanding is that Angel Piqueras is a racer at heart, and that suits somebody in Moto 3. He has obviously the best Honda underneath him, and the Honda is very, very good for him, apparently. So, and the most important thing is Pedro is banging his sister, so that must give Angel superpowers, and therefore he should win Moto 3 Rookie of the Year.
I didn't know that.
Easily. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No,
Why
Well,
do you know
we
that?
shouldn't really, should we?
that's they've been together for a while now. I mean,
Excellent. There we go.
Oh God!
Now we've got some listener like going on Pedro Costa, finding his girlfriend. Some listeners going to be doing it, aren't they? Oh dear.
I really respect her. I don't know her name, but she's doing like a lot of CrossFit stuff, and she's really impressive what she posts on her Instagram. And yeah, I think Pedro seems to be happy, so at least he's not banging his stepsister.
The season hasn't even started.
Excellent.
Oh,
oh dear.
Oh God.
Okay, now back to serious MotoGP journalism. Who is your MotoGP biggest surprise?
Yeah, it's
Because
for
this
me.
will get interesting, I think.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be the non-sister banger that you just mentioned, Pedro Acosta. I think the reason Pedro's going to be surprising, not that he's going to be good, we all know he's going to be good, but I think what's going to surprise the majority of fans is how good he is. Because when you think of the jump from Moto2 to MotoGP, we have not seen a rider become elite in one season since Marc Marquez in 2013. I'm not saying Pedro's going to win the title because I don't think he's going to get close, but I think the level of impressiveness is going to shock a lot of the fans. And I think this may or may not feed into one of my bold predictions for the end of the episode. So just keep that in mind. I do think Pedro's going to really impress a lot of people with just how good he is, and that's why he's my MotoGP surprise.
And I've gone for podiums from Raul Fernandez.
Wow. Okay.
Because to me, Pedro, we say we're surprised, but when I think about it, for me, I don't think it would be a surprise to see him doing well or getting sprint podiums or maybe the Grand Prix podium and maybe a win in the Grand Prix. We'll see, but that sort of thing or just general form from him in the top 5 wouldn't really surprise me. It's boring to say it, but I just believe he's that good, Acosta. So that's why I thought, especially towards the end of last year, and in the new bike, Raul Fernandez seems to really gel with it. Again, it's testing. I know we say, I think Leo was, I don't know, was it on Twitter? You were saying about, we all say it's just testing, but then we're quite happy to latch onto someone who's done well in testing anyway.
No, I didn't say this.
Did you not?
No.
Okay, but it was. We contradict ourselves and say someone's going to do well because of testing, and then say it's just testing. Is what I'm getting at basically. I don't know if you said something like it, but anyway, or if it was someone else. But Raul is definitely in better shape than he was this time last year, and there's more financial backing with that team. They're closer to the factory now. That's important. They're closer to the factory, and I think he also has to prove himself because if he doesn't, he will be out of a job. I don't think anyone else is going to really pick him up unless he performs now.
Yeah. I think quite certainly Raul Fernandez will be the moral MotoGP surprise of the season, 100%. But my pick is Luca Marini. I think the concessions are going to really, really help Honda. They basically have unlimited testing. They can develop the engine, and from my understanding, the engine is difficult. One of the problems of the Honda, they seem to really tackle the aerodynamics and just throw everything on there. And I really have a feeling that maybe not from the start, maybe more in the second half of the season, that Luca Marini will be competitive on the Honda. Because from my understanding, or from what I've heard, he's very, very hardworking and trying, because he's not as natural gifted as Jorge Martin, Marc Marquez, Pedro Acosta, he finds the way to go fast on that bike, and that's exactly what Honda needs. They don't need somebody who overrides the problems. They need somebody who figures out what the problems are and fixes them, and then the bike will get better. And Marc was just overriding the bike, and therefore the Honda didn't really develop too much. And my understanding is that Luca Marini is the right man for the job. I still don't understand why he took it. I still would have stayed with Ducati if I was him. But I think he will surprise a lot of people more towards the end of the season.
That's fair. Colleague Alex went for the same one, by the way. Alex said Luca.
Yeah, okay.
And it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, who's your Moto2 biggest surprise, Keelan?
For me, my Moto2 biggest surprise is someone who's really flown under the radar, but I think he's going to do a lot of good this year, and that's Diogo Moreira at Italtrans. I think he's going to be very good this year. There's kind of two reasons for this. I think Italtrans are one of the most slept on teams in the Moto2 paddock. They are a world championship winning team. You know, Enea Bastianini won his title with them. They've proven they can do it. They've had a very rough few years. And I do think at Italtrans, Diogo Moreira is joining a very good environment. You know, he's joining an environment that does know how to win. They've proven they can win. And in Diogo Moreira, they in turn have a very good talent that they can mold and develop and build as the season goes on. For me, I think Moto2 biggest surprise, Diogo Moreira.
Fun fact about Italtrans, you can go in a second, Jimmy, because I listened to the Motorsport Republica podcast with Remy, and what Remy said, that he had a contract with Italtrans, but apparently with the team owner when he moved from Moto3 to Moto2, and Italtrans, the company, kicked out the team owner and ran the team by themselves, and then told Remy to go fuck himself because he didn't have a contract with them. And then he went to Moto2 Spanish Championship and then worked his way up in Moto2. So yeah, that's a fun fact that I learned and wanted to share with you.
Didn't know that either.
I didn't too. I just learned it on the podcast.
Oh, really? Just now, recently?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to Sergio Garcia on this one. I think he had a really solid year in the end, frankly. And I think podium's on the way. And I feel like a lot of people are forgetting about him. Certainly about his old teammate, Guevara. I said that wrong. I want him to do well. I really do. I don't think he will get there yet. But yeah, anyway, back to Garcia. Yeah, for me, I think podiums are on the cards. He just seems to have finished the year fairly strong, and I think a second year he's going to be fairly confident to go for those moves. When I think before it was just like a safe Moto2 year, and then got good. But yeah, Garcia for me.
What do you think about the new Aspa livery?
Oh, CF Moto, yeah, good. I like it. Clean.
Yeah.
Because you know what? If you really look at it, it's the same livery as before. It's just blue. All the stickers are in exactly the same place as they were before.
Yeah.
And it just works with black, obviously, and red. And they've kept the same. They've not pissed off any sponsors. They've put everything where it was. Fantastic. Simple. Clean. And Jake's got like a bright pink 96 now, which matches the pink on the livery. So, lovely.
I thought the Gasgas was better than the CF Moto.
Yeah.
So I think the red and white just worked better. But I don't know why everybody's up KTM's ass so much. That they're running those stupid sub-Pira mobility group manufacturers. Like, I don't know. But money talks, right?
Yeah, they own these companies. I see from a business point of view. I completely get it. Why would you not do that? They've also got NB Augusta. That might happen again. in MotoGP one day. You never know. If they get 2 more bikes, they could do that if they wanted to.
Is KTM owning MV Agusta?
Yeah, I believe so. The Power Mobility Group owns
Okay.
MV.
Wow,
Crikey, I'm
because
99.9% sure they are anyway.
I know, I
because
didn't know that.
I always thought that MV is still like their own thing because they develop their own chassis and stuff, and everybody else inside this Pura Mobility group is so integrated in using KTM's and now the gas in MotoGP. So yeah, I don't know that, but
Yeah, it's not. We're talking midway through last year,
okay.
so it's just another. So I've got CF Moto, MV, and Gas.
So Moto2 biggest surprise for me, quite boring, Dennis Önci. For all the reasons that I laid out earlier. I think Dennis is going to surprise a lot of people. I think he will win races. I think he will be on the podium quite consistently. Maybe not as good as Raul Fernandez was, maybe not as good as Pedro was in his rookie season, but I definitely think that he has all the tools to be successful. And regarding Moto 3, I have Angel Piqueras as well as biggest surprise. So quite boring there. What's yours, Keelan?
Yeah, my Moto 3 biggest surprise is your world champion, Colin Vire. I was always going to put him somewhere high ranking in these rankings, but I think it's see, I know technically he's not a surprise because he was already very good last year, but I think it'll be a surprise in how much better he is this year. I think he's a quality rider. I think he's meshed with his bike perfectly. Last year he stumbled in the beginning, but he grew so much as the season went on. And I think if he gets off to a flyer in the beginning of this year, I think Colin Vire could be a very serious contender for the Moto 3 world title. It would not surprise me if he was in the mix by the end of the season. So for me, Moto 3 surprise of the year, Colin Vire.
I went for Jacob Ralston, the rookie. I think the team he's got around him is becoming really, really competitive. Moto 3, Tech 3 team. So and a really fast teammate. So I think he could. He's a sort of rider. Looking at his CV in the CEV, he's really fast. He's going to be a bit of a dark horse, I think, because he's got nothing to lose. And obviously, he's gonna. I don't know if he's going to be egged on by his compatriot Kelso, but yeah, I think it could be like an internal battle to be the top Aussie in Moto 3. But then I think riding for Tech 3 in general, he's got good people around him and he's looked fast in testing. And if you can get yourself into that front group, I think people think, "Wow, who are you?" I think for me, he could be a bit of a dark horse to surprise people. A bit of a weird one, maybe you might be thinking, but for me, that could be a good shout.
I was very surprised when I figured out that the Moto 3 bikes are now faster than Valentino Rossi was on
Yes,
his 500
Oh,
around
wow.
Jerez. And by a lot, like a couple of tenths, I believe.
it's nuts.
It's crazy. And the new Pirellis appear to be 2 to 3 seconds faster than the Dunlops.
It's nuts. Did you know what I think? It's just maybe think. When there was these accidents going on in Moto 3, we were thinking they're too close together now.
Yeah.
There's a few scares a few years ago, I think, and people saying some top people in the paddock saying we need to make the bikes faster because it might create bigger gaps. So maybe.
I said this one as well.
Oh, you remember that one? You don't remember the Twitter thing a minute ago? Yeah.
No. I said they need to increase the engine size to 300
Capacity.
because A,
Yeah.
they would be faster, and B, it would be better for manufacturers to advertise the bikes to the public because everybody is now selling 300s. Like Yamaha has a 300, Kawasaki has a 300, Honda has a 300 as well, I believe. KTM has the 390. So I
Yeah.
think a 300 class would be more attractive for new manufacturers, for existing manufacturers. It would be better, and you would solve the speed issue a little bit. And obviously, now with the new tires, I didn't think of that. You make a totally valid point. I think totally agree with it. because you don't see it in MotoGP and you don't see it in Moto2, so speed is obviously an issue.
I mean, you could argue that if Rossi had modern tyres on that, tyres of now, the NSR 500 would probably go 2 seconds that faster, but that's the way it is. It's the fact that remains a 500cc bike is slower is just crazy.
The thing which still blows my mind is that Marco Simoncelli on the 250 is faster around Germany than the Moto2 bikes.
That's mental.
That's so crazy.
That's a good start, that, mate. Is that just, I mean, power to weight is nimble, isn't it? The 250 is really nimble, so you can't get much more twisted than Sachsenring, but still. I do recall Simoncelli's pole lap in 2009 250 at Catalonia. I believe that was quick enough to be quicker than Rossi's pole in 2001. So already some tracks, the 250s were getting really fast to the point where I think they were costing like $1 million a year to lease the factory Aprilia in 250s. So they were freaks, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, but I really, really enjoy it when you see somebody like Marco Simoncelli on an old-ass bike in 2008, I believe it was, or 2009, one of the 2 years, and you compare the qualifying times to the Moto2 grid, and each year they're just not as good as Marco Simoncelli was. Like, I believe Ralph...
It is satisfying.
And Sachsenring is also the perfect track for it, because you can't use your power on a motorcycle. You're just turning all the time. Yeah. So the 250 is perfect for this track. Like a go-kart track, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, in a way, yeah.
MotoGP biggest disappointment. Now it gets funny. Because I think we can argue a lot about these picks.
Yeah,
the previous picks were more like common sense, I believe.
I had a feeling we're all going to go for the same. I'm hoping we're not, though.
Hopefully not, because I got a feeling you two copied each other.
Yeah.
Seems like we did all the time. I don't understand it.
Oh boy, this is where it really gets into the sort of mudslinging of things. I don't think either of you will have picked this, though. I am confident in that. My MotoGP biggest disappointment, and it hurts my heart to say this, but it's Jack Miller.
Okay.
And the reason it's Jack Miller is, again, I don't enjoy saying this. There's a lot more riders I would enjoy saying this about, but with Jack Miller, I don't see how he gets any better than what he's shown the last couple of years. I think he's hit his ceiling, and I think it kind of goes down from here. When it comes to race pace, he doesn't have the pace to win. When he does lead, he drops back and back and back, and he can't get back to the front. He qualifies good sometimes, but then other times he's nowhere. To be honest, I just don't. I think Jack Miller's going to have a really bad year this year, and I think this might be it for him in MotoGP as well. So, MotoGP biggest disappointment for me, KTM's Jack Miller.
Funnily enough, I talked about this with Simon Crafer, and Simon thinks the opposite, that Jack Miller has all the tools to be successful and just needs to put it together. And with his family situation now, that he looked like he sorted this one out, that if he concentrates really on improving himself as a rider and improving the bike, that he can be very successful, because obviously Pedro Acosta will, in 99% of all scenarios, will be on the KTM factory bike next year, except Jack Miller just blows everybody away.
Yeah. Leo, the only problem with that is, when have you ever seen Jack put it together for any meaningful period of time? You haven't.
He had those 2 races on the Ducati where he won back to back.
2 races, Leo.
Yeah, but since then, you're completely right. I completely agree with you. And this isn't my point, this is Simon's point, and I basically said the exact same thing.
Well, I'm not going to get into a verbal fist fight with Simon Crayfar. he didn't hear me say that.
You probably both got good points there. Both of you got really bad. Well, I know you're saying that's Simon's, but if Jack can put it together, then if his confidence is there, he's fine. But it was the halfway through last year, it plummeted, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then he can't get it back. It's like when Lorenzo used to do the same thing. As soon as he had one bad result, it took him forever to get back to a decent result again. I think Jack actually, he could have won Valencia, couldn't he? With definitely the podium. So they both scuffed that race, didn't they? But yeah, but then do you remember when they were doing really bad in testing last year, and then both turned up at Portimao, both KTM's, and just where have you guys come from? And they were right up there. So that's why he wasn't my disappointment. My disappointment is Franco Morbidelli.
Oh, okay.
Sadly, I can agree with you. I love Frankie to the death. He's the coolest motherfucker in MotoGP by far. And I mean, with the arrival of Pedro, it gets close, but Frankie is so cool. But his preseason was more than suboptimal. He is now supposed to be at the front with the Ducati, and I really don't see him adapting to a new bike in race trim so quickly, so it will take time. And I don't know, with his injury history, like his knee was a big one. I don't know how this one will affect him long term. With his head injury, I sadly can see it. And regarding the KTM point, KTM always has been inconsistent. Ducati always has been consistent, so Frankie has no excuses at all.
He has a higher standard. I see what you mean, yeah.
He lost so much time by not testing.
5 days.
Yeah, this gap to make up to the other riders on the Ducati, like even to the KTM or Aprilia riders, will be very, very tough. And sadly, I can agree. But my biggest disappointment will be Marc Marquez.
Oh,
yeah. Let me explain. Yeah, Marc Marquez. Let me explain. When did all the rumors start that Marc could go to Ducati? Summer of last year, basically?
Yeah, September, I want to say.
And what did everybody say in the paddock?
Dismiss initially, you mean?
Like if he gets into Ducati, what would happen?
Oh yeah, he would destroy everyone. Yeah.
That's exactly. And the expectation basically is that Marc Marquez is 8-time world champion, such a incredibly talented rider, such a fast rider, that he would destroy the grid. And I don't know how his body is at the moment. You can't tell me that he's as good as he was in 2019.
Yeah. So
impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible. And I talked a lot about this with Jack on the test review, because we saw lap records getting smashed on the new Ducati by 0.8 of a second. Obviously, the conditions were different. And Jack basically said he can see the new Ducati being 0.2 of a second faster. That would mean in a 20-lap race that the new Ducati is 4 seconds faster. And I don't see Marc Marquez being 4 seconds faster than Jorge Martin, Enea Bastianini, Pecco Bagnaia. Because those 3 riders on the GP24 are absolute monsters. I definitely see Marc winning races. I definitely see him being in a podium. But I don't think that he will run everybody over like he's supposed to do, and therefore it would be a disappointing season, because he goes to Ducati to be a world champion. He expects to be a world champion, and everything below that I don't see as a success. Therefore, disappointment.
Fair enough. I mean, sorry, I don't know if you're going to say something there, Keelin.
No, go ahead.
My fear is that for the sake of for him and the sport, but he was never going to be my disappointment because smart. But I know what you mean, because I don't think, maybe from a outsider's perspective or a general fan it would be if he didn't win the championship, but I don't think he thinks he's going to win the championship anyway. That's a guess. I don't know that in his mind, but I think if Mark can win races, he knows he'll just get signed somewhere else anyway, factory team wise, if he wants to. So I get what you're saying. It's quite bold. Not gonna lie, that was quite a bold one. But I can't see him Thing is, that 4-second thing, that's what I was going to say, sorry, the 4-second gap thing over the long period of the race, that's on paper what we know now. In a race situation, with riders maybe going a bit wide, overheating, all these things, mark experience, I mean, things get checked, things will change. They might be better. There might be something wrong with the GP24 we don't know about yet. They might eat its tires longer. We don't know these things. Mark,
That's actually a very good point. Sorry to interrupt you there, because Jack and I talked exactly about this one, that the GP24's weakness might be that it uses more of its tire than the other bikes, like the other Ducatis previously.
Yeah. That could be because of downforce, extra downforce, maybe. Who knows?
And on the flip side, the GP24 is a new bike which will be developed over the course of the season. And the GP23, except Ducati will generously give him a new fairing or whatsoever, like they did with Enea Bastianini in 22. But I could see them to say, oh, we want that our factory guy will win, and therefore the GP23 of Marc Marquez won't get any updates. Could very well be possible.
Yeah.
And that politics get involved in this. And I think the GP24 will only get better. I don't think that the GP24 is a failure like the GP22. And it, like Sachsenring, we talked about Sachsenring. In 30 laps, it would be all of a sudden, theoretically, 6 seconds. And I can see Mark bridging this gap in some circuits, but in other circuits, I don't see it. And you still have to remember that he has to adapt to a new crew chief, new bike, everything is new. And yeah, I totally understand that a racing situation is always different, and that's just a theoretical 4-second gap. But still, it's there. Like, you can go faster with the GP24 than with the GP23. We've seen it. It's proven.
Yeah.
No, I must say that is a very, very interesting point, Leo, and I'll give credit to you. You've backed it up very well. It's not just a clickbait argument. It's a very, very fair and valid argument. I'm not going to argue with you. And I think what's interesting as well is the way you phrased it. It's not that Mark is a failure in the traditional sense of failure. It's that the bar has been set so high that anything short of the mountaintop is a failure. It's not a failure as in, like, I think Jack Miller might be a failure. It's a failure that he's almost a victim of his own success. So I think that's a very good point, and I think it's a very interesting one to consider as the season goes on. And the other point that I'll add as well is a path that's been well beaten by this point. I saw a picture of Marc Marquez from, I think Red Bull were doing a documentary about Marquez, when he left Honda and went to Ducati. And he showed, I think he was talking to a Honda executive, and he showed him his arm from the surgery. And the guy looks like a baseball glove on his arm. It is so bad, that injury. The stitchings, the surgeries, it is such a nasty stitching that's all the way down his arm. And you have to think, because we know Mark's going to crash, right? He will win races, but he will crash along the way. And you have to think, is the next big crash going to be the one? Is that next crash going to be the one that takes him out of commission permanently?
Don't say that.
But
I don't look.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I'm not Mark's biggest fan. I never have been, but I don't want him. I don't want his career ended on an injury, because that's just not a good thing. It's always in the back of your mind, and I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
The thing is, with the Honda, it was easy to crash. We saw it with everybody. Like, it's a miracle to me that Taka Nakagami survived his MotoGP career without any significant injuries.
Because it destroyed. Test dummy.
It literally destroyed everybody who was riding on it except Mark, Cal, and Taka. Everybody else was fucked by this machine.
Yeah.
And I think with the Ducati, it's a more sophisticated bike. The electronics are miles ahead. It's like comparing an iPhone from 2008 to 2023. It's totally different. And with the aerodynamics, I think you get more grip. And I think that you rarely see a Ducati high side. And that's where the scary crashes happen. So I think he kind of, in this sense, made the correct decision in leaving Honda, because Honda was just an accident waiting to happen, you know?
Yeah, I mean, God knows what another year at Honda looks like for Mark. I mean, it doesn't even pay thinking about.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So, Moto2, the biggest disappointment.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen, Leo. My pick for Moto2 biggest disappointment is a guy I picked for the title a few years ago in one of my bold predictions. That's how much of a disappointment we're talking about. And it's Joe Roberts. Yeah, Joe Roberts has fallen so far in my estimations. It's a real shame because I genuinely thought he was going to win the world title at one point. Last year, he had a couple of good moments here and there, but he was just in the wilderness, really. Year before was kind of the same. And this year, I actually think he's gone back into a worse environment in the American. All right, I get it's the American racing team. He's American. I get that. But I
Well,
think
Sean Dillon Kelly was American too, and he got kicked
yeah.
out for
And look
a
what they did to him.
sponsorship deal with whatever company
Yeah,
which paid for Marcus Ramirez.
I don't know if
exactly.
Dorna. I don't know if Dorna. Sorry, I don't know if Dorna would allow that to happen to Joe. They can't afford to lose Joe. The sport can't. Dorna would have to step
Honestly,
in. I think. I genuinely think Dorna would have to step in there. You have to
honestly,
have
I
a ride.
don't. Yeah, I don't understand how Dorna even allowed the Sean Dillon Kelly thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy to me.
yeah. But I mean, he's further back in the grid. You could argue. I think they would
Yeah,
have
but
to
he was
step in.
there for 1.5 seasons.
Yeah,
And
it's
he
a
came
silly
from
difference.
Supersport, where he never ridden a GP bike before. He was super young. You could have given him 5 years in Moto 2 and then see where he was at. But to kick him out in the middle of the season for some Spaniard who just brings in more money is utterly ridiculous. And that Dorna didn't interfere with it one bit is
No,
crazy to me. But yeah, we could see it happen with Joe Roberts as well. Who knows?
sorry, Keelan. They'll chop you off, Keelan.
Tito Rabat. Yeah, but look, I think as far as Joe Roberts goes, he's stepping backwards into a worse environment. Even though he does have American people around him, I get that. I'm not going to argue that, but it's just an environment to me that looks like the blind leading the blind. You know, they don't look like they know what they're doing. It's a nasty environment. Rory Skinner got kicked to the curb
Yeah,
wrongly.
I
Sean Dillon
haven't
Kelly.
I haven't heard one positive thing about this team.
Neither have
Nothing.
I. Neither have I. Not a single bean of positivity. John Hopkins has come out of this looking really bad. The team's come out of it looking really bad, and I just don't think it's the right environment for Joe Roberts if he has title aspirations. I think he's going to be back in the wilderness. He's going to be in the middle of nowhere, and for that, Joe Roberts is my Moto2 biggest disappointment.
Wait a second before you
That's right.
start. If you could pinpoint the exact moment where Joe Roberts' career went sideways, which moment would you pick? Because I have one in mind.
I've got one in mind as well.
I think
I
I have
think
the
we
same
have the
one as
same
both
one.
of you.
Which
Who's going
one
to
is
go
yours?
first?
No, Leo, I'll
Keelan?
let you have this one. You've built up the
Okay.
moment.
In Catalonia, where he crashed in the lead with like 4 seconds. That was when the ship sunk.
That was the one I had.
That's an obvious one, actually. I was thinking more. He should have. This is slightly different. You guys are probably more. I think you're right, actually. But I'm thinking more. Was it the back end of 2020, and he
Oh,
refused.
the Aprilia thing.
He refused the Aprilia deal before the Grand Prix day, and just because of what I know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and what we know now, the Aprilia is a fantastic bike. Imagine if he'd have taken that deal. Dorna would have had the American dream. Joe might have been looked after well in a professional factory team. He might have gelled with the bike well. We'll never know. But yeah, I think that was daft. You never know when you're going to get a shot at a factory ride, and he
Yeah.
had one.
And we said that, Jimmy. We said that at the time. He was crazy to turn it down. It was right there. It was like a tap in. It was an open goal, and he missed it. And
That's a good way of putting it.
he might never get that chance again. And based on last season's form, he's definitely not going to.
No.
So that was such a messed up opportunity by Joe Roberts. That's a very good point because I forgot about that.
But the thing is, when you go back and you saw Sam Lowes failing miserably on the bike, getting sent back to Moto 2, I mean, I could understand more or less his point, but I still wouldn't advise him to do this because you get one shot. And when you're in MotoGP, you can still go back to Moto 2 if it doesn't work out. But if you're in Moto 2 and don't win championships, you won't get into MotoGP, especially the way MotoGP is structured now after Suzuki left. No way in hell you get a MotoGP seat without winning the title or doing something crazy with Pramac and Fermin, apparently, which is happening. So let's talk about this for a second. Fermin won 5 races in a row at the end of last season. Well, 4 or 5, I don't know.
He won Silverstone and then he won 4 in a row at the end of the year, I think.
I think you're right. I think that is what it was.
I don't know.
Ridiculous. It was incredible anyway. But yeah.
Well, Catalonia, Qatar, Thailand, Malaysia.
Oh, he won more. Yeah. Did he win?
And he didn't win Indonesia. He didn't win Australia. It might have been 4. Okay. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Who knows? 4 or 5, whatever. And he apparently was in talks for the Repsol Honda seat. Didn't get it for one reason or another. I don't know if Honda rejected him, if he No, he was in talks for the Valentino Rossi seat.
That's right, VR46.
Yeah, it wasn't Honda. It was the Valentino Rossi seat. Still of Rusty in my brain when it comes
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
And now there are talks that he apparently signed with Pramac. So what do we think about that?
Jimmy, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote something about this, and I think last year, I don't know. I think you might have been actually Indian Grand Prix special. Actually, I don't know. I was definitely with you. We've had this conversation before, Leo, regarding Fermin. Briefly, it wasn't into depth, but I think you probably think I'm both mad thinking this. I think it's premature. I think it's really premature. And the reason I thought you guys would say is, I don't think he's the best. I don't know. I don't even know if he's the best rider in Moto 2. I just think he's gelled with that bike so well with his style. If you look at the history of the speed up or the Boss Skier or whatever they call it now, it's able to dominate races sometimes, and then other times it can't. Even going as far back as Iannone in 2010. Oh, it's a different era, different engine as well. But the speed of chassis has always been really, really. Sam Lowes as well. He could win by miles and then be nowhere 2 weeks later. He's not the best example because he was never that consistent. But the speed up chassis, if someone suits it, they can go and go. It's a bit of a weird one. I'm not the only one who said it, but I'm one of very few people who said it. And I think again, tyres is a nice boring conversation, but if the Moto 2 races, we're more likely to see degrading tyres in those races than Moto 3 with Pirellis. What if he can't look after the tyres? What if he bins it in Qatar and the second race? What if he's nowhere? He won't be nowhere, but I think if that contract is definitely happened, he's been offered it and he's accepted it, and what if he starts binning it and hurts himself or he just isn't performing? I think I would have expected him to be offered it after 3 rounds, personally. I thought it was premature, but if he has been offered it, then it's like the Joe Roberts thing. He has to take that. It's the best ride in the grid. It's the best bike in the grid. It's always the current Ducati. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. If he's got it, go for it. He's not even 20 years old. Fantastic. Good for him.
Yeah, it's a really interesting argument because it's one you can see both ways, basically. On the one hand, if you had to pick a rider out of Moto2 at the moment to put into Pramac, it's Fermin Aldeguer, and you're not really picking anybody else. Anybody who says otherwise is probably lying to you. But there's an example. There's actually two words I'm going to use to show why it's a bad idea and why it's premature, like Jimmy just said. Alonso Lopez. He's the example. And the reason I use Alonso Lopez is because last year, or was it the year before, he was absolutely flying in every race and he was getting podiums and this and that. And he was the one in this discussion for a big MotoGP seat. And now he's struggling to get his momentum and his consistency back. There is nothing to suggest that won't happen to Fermin Aldeguer, especially with the new tyres coming in, especially with these new changes. So with Moto 2, you really have no idea what if the landscape's going to be the same as it is in 6, 7, 8 races time. You don't know. And I think the problem that we have is that in Grand Prix motorcycle racing as a whole, there's so much talent coming up the pipeline that people are getting thrust forward when they're not ready, and you're getting talent ruthlessly recycled because they're not ready for these opportunities. I just hope Fermin Aldeguer isn't the next example of that.
I don't understand why Ducati, out of all manufacturers, should rush a contract. You know, if you're Pramac Ducati and you go to Fermin and say, hey, we have significant interest in you, we would like to sign you, let's talk about it after 8 races. He wouldn't do a damn in signing with Honda or whatsoever, you know? Why would he? If he's good, then he will go to Ducati. And if Ducati doesn't want him, maybe other manufacturers will. So I would understand it if Yamaha, if Honda, if those manufacturers would offer him a contract this early, but I don't see why Ducati would do it out of all. You could go to Ducati, you could go to a rider after 18 races in the season and say, hey, do you want to ride at Pramac Ducati? And they will happily throw the contract they signed for 25 in the bin and say, let's roll. So I don't understand it in this way. And I think this is a very good opportunity to talk about my biggest Moto2 disappointment, because it's actually Fermin Aldeguer. And I think for reasons you laid out perfectly, the Boscoscuro isn't consistent. Alonso Lopez was hyped up as a title contender in 2023. He wasn't. New tires, we don't know what's going to happen. And Fermin has incredible pace. Raw pace, he's one of the best. But can he manage tires? Like, the Pirelli tires are totally different. I happily remind everybody that Lorenzo Baldassari in 2019 was blowing everybody away because they were using a 190 rear tire in Moto2. Then they changed after Jerez, I believe, or before Jerez, some of this time frame. They changed it to 200, so a little bit wider rear tire, and it totally overthrew the power balance in Moto2. Remember, Alex Marquez was not nowhere, but he wasn't as strong at the beginning of the season. Then with the new rear tire, he was super strong and ended up winning the world championship. And Lorenzo Baldassari was nowhere. And I like to tell this story because it shows how much of an impact tires can have. And from my understanding, Fermin made a change to the pressure in the rear tire. Speed Up usually ran a very high pressure on the rear tire, but then they dropped it for Fermin, and then he started to become very, very good. And who knows how the Pirellis react? Who knows how they react over a race distance? And for a little bit of the same reasons, like with Marc Marquez, I think that Fermin can only disappoint in this season if he doesn't go out and blows everybody away, you know? And if indeed Celestino Vietti will win the championship and maybe Fermin finishes second or third, you could consider this a disappointment after winning 4 or 5 races in a row, you know?
Yeah. No, when you say it, like, when you put it in those terms, it makes a lot of sense, really, yeah. I went for someone completely different from my disappointment, and that was Izan Guevara. I know I mentioned him earlier on, but yeah, I can't see him drastically improving, which is pretty. you could almost argue ignorant, considering his Moto3 World Championship winning year was so good. It was so convincing. I just think Jake is a stronger teammate, but you wouldn't think it's a massive mountain to climb to get on terms with Jake. But I think the promise he had, he still isn't going to show. Personally, I hope I'm wrong. I just can't. I just don't think that bike suits him. Maybe maybe he'd be better on a Boston Europe potentially. Possibly, but what's worrying for someone as fast as he's on Guevara, it really is worrying. If you can't make this work, how is he ever going to get a shot in MotoGP? Which for all we know, he might do well on a MotoGP bike. It could be a complete style thing. It's a confidence thing, I think, with Izan, which is such a shame because you guys know that if you can easily get forgotten in this sport, you can get forgotten after 1 year and think, oh yeah, Guevara, he was really good that year, wasn't he? Yeah, yes, he was. He was fantastic. I think but I can't see it turning around for him yet. So that's my Moto2 disappointment. I can't see it.
Regarding Izan, I totally see it. And from my understanding, just rumors, I don't know this for a fact, I've just heard that the phrase hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard fits perfectly to the Izan Guevara situation. He's so talented, he's so gifted, and we saw this in Moto3. And my understanding is, from what I've heard from people, is that he never really worked hard because he was so gifted. And this is now the reason why he is struggling in Moto2, because all of a sudden you have to work hard and all of a sudden your talent isn't enough anymore. So I think with Izan, it really depends on his work ethic. My understanding is that he kind of changed his mentality and started to work harder, and we will see how the winter break went for him. But regarding the winter break, I forgot one point regarding Fermin. I think when you win 4 races, I googled it, it was 4. When you win 4 races in a row and then go into the winter break, there's a chance that you might not work as hard as somebody who has to prove something, like, for example, Celestino Vietti, that you just go to this one party or eat this one burger, and then all of a sudden at the end of the winter you're not at 100%, you're only at 99%, while the other guy is spot on with his training, spot on with his diet, super disciplined, doing everything right, and then all of a sudden it's like at 101%. And it shifted, could very well be. I don't know Fermin personally, I don't know his training, I don't know Izan personally. It's just things that maybe I've heard, or regarding Fermin, something that is completely made up as a hypothetical scenario. So please don't get me wrong, I don't know jack shit, I'm just talking shit. So that's why we're here. Who's your Moto2 biggest disappointment, Keelan?
You mean Moto3?
Oh, did you say your Moto2 as well?
Yeah, Joe Roberts.
Oh, fuck yeah, I forgot. I'm sorry. It was so far back that I already forgot it.
Yeah, we had a good tangent there. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so Moto3, please.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this pick is that my Moto3 disappointment isn't just one rider, but it's actually a team. And the team is, unfortunately, my countryman Michael Laverty's Vision Track Racing team. They're my biggest disappointment of Moto3. The reason why is that last year, I get it was their first year, they had some betting in to do, all that kind of stuff. But there was no real point in the season where I saw any progression. I didn't see riders getting straight into Q2. I didn't see anything on the racetrack during the race that actually impressed me, that actually said, oh, look, that's them. That's the steps they're making. I don't want to say anything bad about Scott Ogden and Josh Watley because, I mean, they're young riders. They're learning, they're developing, and they're trying to improve and they're trying to grow. It's just with that team, I don't see them challenging the big boys anytime soon. So for me, my biggest disappointment is the Vision Track Racing team.
Bouncing off that, mine was not a rider or a team. It was just Honda. which is boring. I was gonna have Tatsuki Suzuki actually.
But
I think
after Tatsuki's season last year, getting dropped in the middle of the season for Argent finals, can you really underachieve that?
maybe. I think his teammate's going to wipe the floor with him in Colin Vine at Livery
Of
Merlin.
course, totally agree.
Sorry, Tatsuki, if you're listening to this podcast. Well, many people do. But no, I think Colin's got something that he hasn't really. Tatsuki doesn't have that gutsy sort of killing swagger that Colin does in a battle. And Colin absolutely has that. And I think he's going to walk all over him personally. And I realised a few weeks ago, Tatsuki Suzuki is 26 years old now. From Moto 3, he's nearly at the age limit, guys. Another year or two. So yeah, he should be in MotoGP by now. He should have had the Suzuki Dream with the name. But I don't think. Yeah, I don't think unless he shoots that KTM more. He had the best bike in the grid last year. He did okay. Massey was always going to thrash him personally. he just, I think. Anyway, Honda in general, though, I think he's going to get walked all over unless they can survive the battles and it's a train and they can survive in the train races. Which, let's face it, is probably most of them. They really haven't done their homework at all by the looks of it. You can tell by the aerodynamics of the front of the fairing on the KTM and the side of the fairing. They've done a lot of homework here. I think Honda's priorities have probably been 2 classes above, which is understandable. They've been focusing on MotoGP. I totally get it. At the same time, it's going to badly affect teams. What Keelin was saying, especially when you've got the MLAV. I don't even know if they're going to have a title sponsorship. Vision Track is gone. It's just going to be MLAV Honda Racing. I think. I don't know if you know any more on that, Keelin, but
I think you're right. At the moment, I think it's just MLAV Racing.
I know that there's something going on behind the scenes, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk to it. So I will just keep my mouth shut.
Don't get us sued, Leo.
No. But
season.
From my understanding, there's something going on, but I have no idea if I'm totally messing this up when I'm saying this and the wrong people hear this. So I'll just keep my mouth shut.
If it's a collaboration between that team and another team, I'm not sure it's happening, but I'm not sure which team. Anyway, we'll talk about it after recording, mate.
Well.
But yeah.
If I say I'm in big trouble.
Yeah. Well, yeah, rumours are rumours. We won't say anything. But yeah, Keelan's right. I think the MLAB team needs serious. I don't know if it's the staff. I think the staff are fine, but they need some more HRC staff. Maybe I'm not sure that they just need some more help. That team, especially Dorna want Scott and Josh to bring it home. I think they need. I just feel like it's an under-supported team. But that's
the thing is, Jake Dixon got his Moto 2 seat after Petronas failed due to his nationality, and I think Dorna has some kind of interest in a British team, and I don't think this is something I don't know. But I can imagine that Dorna would financially support a British team.
That's nothing to do with the other thing, then.
No, nothing. This is again me talking shit. I don't know. But I would have thought that they would help Sean Dillon Kelly out, and I was wrong on this. So who the fuck knows? I just know for a fact that Alonso Lopez got his seat at Gasgas. Not Alonso Lopez. Jake Dixon got his seat at Gasgas because it was supposed to be Alonso Lopez, but then he didn't get it because Jake Dixon went to Dorna crying, I don't have a seat. And Dorna said, okay, you have to put him here. We will pay for everything. And that's how Jake Dixon got into Gasgas, apparently.
I was going to say, Jake won 2 races last year. Lopez didn't win any, or did he win one?
No. This is 2021
before he was at Aspar,
because he was riding for Petronas.
Yeah, sorry.
And then Petronas failed.
That's it.
Or the team fell apart. It was 21 at the end of the season. And for the 22 season, and remember, Alonso Lopez didn't have a seat then and just got into Moto 2 after Le Mans, or in Le Mans, before Le Mans. So in Le Mans, his rookie season in Moto 2 officially started, and that's like the backstory from 2021 to 22, the winter there with Jake Dixon going to GasGas. So my biggest disappointment is Daniel Elgato. I think he's not mentally stable enough to win a championship. I think the team isn't stable enough to win anything because Tech 3 is a mess. I've heard from many different people that MotoGP and Moto3, Tech 3 is just chaos. Everything that I said about Red Bull KTM IO, which was good, is like the opposite in Tech 3. And therefore, I don't think Daniel Elgato will be anywhere close where he has been in the past.
Wow. That contradicts that. I thought I was saying the opposite about Tech 3 and Moto 3, but maybe you know something I don't.
I mean, the thing is, when you compare Red Bull KTM IO to any team, they will look bad, the other team, because Red Bull KTM IO is just awesome. And I guess in Moto 3, there's much more shit going on than in MotoGP. So I guess for Moto 3 terms, Tech 3 is a better team than Tech 3 is for MotoGP terms, if you know what I'm saying. Because like the competition is at another level. Like I've heard from riders in Moto E for Tech 3 that the facilities is great. The way they organize the trips around the world is great, or around Europe in this particular reason. So that's apparently different to other teams, but when you compare to Red Bull KTM I, when you compare to Leopard or GasGas, like now CF Moto, that right, Tech 3 is now GasGas. So Tech 3 is not as good as Aspar, IO, Leopard, those teams, you know, from my understanding. Again, I don't know. Could be that people are talking shit.
I mean, I thought they were a good outfit in general, to be fair. But maybe there's stuff we don't know behind. I mean, Holgado did better in Tech 3 than Ayo, but that was maybe because
but Ayo was his rookie season.
Yeah, that's but it literally took words out of my mouth. But yeah, it was his rookie season. You're right. Yeah.
Okay, so let's make it quick. Moto 3 Constructors Championship. I guess we can say it on 3, 3, 2, 1.
Yamaha.
Ducati.
No, Ducati. Most bikes, best riders. Yeah.
Yeah, we know the story. We had it last year. Best independent rider could get interesting. What's your pick, Keelan?
Senor Marquez.
Okay, Jimmy?
Same.
I think Jorge Martin.
I think he's going to get pissed off and start crashing. No, that's not.
Maybe he starts crashing into Mark for as payback for Valencia.
I think there's every likelihood that you're right, though. It probably will be Martin, but Mark will be there pissing off. Martin won't be there next year anyway, so he could either be winning loads as a consequence, or I don't care what happens now because I'm starting off to Aprilia. Bye, boys. So I wouldn't be surprised if he starts crashing lots, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the championship with Martin. He's that sort of maverick in a way.
Want to hear a dark horse?
Go.
My girlfriend's pick is Fabio Di Giannantonio.
Yeah, I get that makes sense. I still think he might win at Qatar.
Would be absolutely gangster.
Would be brilliant. Would be absolutely brilliant if Digi did that.
Who's your MotoGP best independent team?
What do I have down? I'm not going to go with what I've written down. VR46.
Jimmy?
I think Digi's going to be a revelation, and I think Bezzecchi is solid enough to keep them going where they need to be.
Go, Bez. I went for Premier Pramac Racing.
I think Gresini.
I was going to go with Gresini.
Thinking about it, why on earth did they go to Pramac? That means that Morbidelli would have to be get going.
Who of you picked Morbidelli as the disappointment of the season?
I
right?
did, but then I think Martin will still do enough personally. But
that's a bit of a stretch.
I know, but I think Digia has potential to be faster than Bears all year.
Okay, one thing you have to explain to me. If Marc Marquez is best independent rider, that would mean he has more points than Jorge Martin. And if Franco Morbidelli is disappointment of the season, what the hell is Alex Marquez then?
I
It
don't know
just
where
doesn't
he's
make
going to be.
sense. It
No,
just
I
doesn't
know.
make sense.
I don't know. I think Martin will still fight for the championship. So for me, that was enough. Enough for that. But yeah, I know. Yeah. Maybe I rushed that one. Who knows? But yeah, Alex Marquez. I don't know where he's going to be this year. I
I
really
think he
don't.
will be solid.
He'll be solid. I think he can be ahead of Franco. That's for sure. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. I think he'll be faster because of Mark. I don't think he'll be mentally shot down. I think he'll be faster as a rider, but I don't know if that means he'll be higher up the order.
Okay, let's get into the spicy stuff with the bold predictions. This is the category where we will go absolutely nuts and say stuff like Joan Mir will fight for a podium.
I'm
So,
hoping I've not got
Keelan,
boring.
so what's your first bold prediction? Let's go by them one by one, and then we will go into the second round, third round.
Mm-hmm. My first bold prediction is that Pedro is in the top 3 by the end of the season. That's it. I don't need to elaborate. That's the tweet. That's it.
In the standings.
Yeah.
In standings at the end of the season.
That is a bold. That's bolder than what
I think it hugely depends on KTM. How good is the KTM compared to Ducati? If it's anywhere close, maybe. If KTM does KTM things, then no way. I don't think Pedro will be the deciding factor, because if you give him the right bike, he will show his talent.
I'm gonna look like such a muck at the end of the season.
No, I think you can say worse. You can absolutely say worse. So, Jimmy, what's your?
My first one. Injuries aside, let's say there isn't any. Yeah, of course. With 3 rounds to go, the championship will still be open between Pecco, Enea, Jorge Martin, Mark, and Brad Binder.
Okay.
So, do you think it's like a mathematical thing that
I just
everybody
think that KTM and Brad know
champion?
that they have to make progress, and there's no way on earth Mark won't be running races. And Enea, again, I said injury permitting because of what happened last year, but he's going to be winning races, and Pecco is going to be Pecco. Is injury permitting, I think I can't see a world where it's only 2 people going to the last 3 rounds. So that's as bold as it really got for me. I've got 2 others, yes, but five riders going into the last 3 races can win the championship.
Mine is Mark won't fight for the championship.
I love how different these are.
I think that Enea and Pecco will fight for the championship, and I hope it gets not ugly, but funny ugly, like what was
like
funny?
Lorenzo and Rossi?
Nah, that got ugly.
Yeah, it did a bit.
What was funny ugly? Man, we had funny champions. Like here, Pedro Acosta, Dennis Foggia. This one got funny ugly because they started to tease each other, and like with the whole Darren Binder situation there, it was ugly how the championship ended, but it was hella funny.
I think if it will become. I think if it was to go down to 2 people, I think it would be those 2. If Enea is fine, he's looking better now, and he is himself again. I think it'd be uglier than that. Honestly, though, mate, it would be uglier because you'd have teammates, and it's awkward, and there'd be almost need a wall, and that would be ugly. It'd be good for the sport,
Yeah,
but it'd be uglier.
and hopefully for once this whole bullshitting of Ducati team orders, like first we had that Enea Bastianini is helping Pecco to beat Fabio. Then we had that Ducati sabotaged Michelin and therefore Jorge Martin couldn't fight for a championship. I really hope that we just get Enea versus Pecco on the best bike on the grid, battling it out, and then probably we will have some new conspiracy theory. But I don't think Mark will fight for the championship. I think he will have like let's say a Marco Bezzecchi role, like Marco had in 2023, win a couple of races, be good at some races, but then also be not so good at other races, and like be there in the top 5 in the championship. I definitely see this, but I don't think he has like a realistic say in who will win the world championship. I think he could be a deciding factor, but I don't think he will fight for the championship. Okay, round 2. Keelan.
My second bold MotoGP prediction is that Trackhouse will not be a MotoGP team by the end of the season.
Those poor fuckers didn't even start.
It's not for the reasons you thought RNF wouldn't survive. I don't think it's a Ponzi scheme team. I'm not saying that. I just think that if you know anything about NASCAR, which not many Europeans do, to be fair, Trackhouse are a very new team in NASCAR. They're finding their feet. They're building success in that way, and I think this is the right distraction at the wrong time for them. I think they were offered a very good deal by Dorna to pick up the tab basically and create American interest in MotoGP. But and I hope I'm wrong because I've advocated for American growth in MotoGP more than nearly anybody. But I think Justin Marks and Trackhouse will realize how tough this is. I don't think Aprilia are going to be very good. And I think when they struggle and they're languishing towards the bottom, they'll pull the plug. So my opinion is that Trackhouse doesn't make it a full season as the satellite Aprilia team.
But they have Pitbull.
Oh, imagine if he's there on race and he's been invited to, fly the checkered flag.
He's Mr. Worldwide.
I forgot he existed until this announcement, honestly.
Oh, I can't believe you've said that.
Excellent.
But they have Pitbull. Pitbull's there in the paddock as the chief mechanic, just quoting rap lyrics.
Imagine Pitbull singing the American anthem before the America's GP.
Oh no, please no. Oh god. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Paris Hilton turned up, didn't she, for Maverick in 2011? And then you could overhear him saying in Pat Ferme Le Mans 2011, "Oh my god, I'm so proud of you." Oh no, what? You've just met him. You don't even know you. What? It's just like no. So I don't know if we'll see that again. Yeah.
So what's your second one?
My second one was by the time we get to this midway through the year, Yamaha and Honda will have podium pace, just because of the testing, which is I'm almost regretting it actually. But because they have so many tests booked that they can have, and Honda have got like 22, I think, booked for the year. I think with all that track time, it could make a lot of difference. I think that could surprise a lot of people.
I'm totally on board with you. Like I said, my MotoGP surprised Luca Marini, and I think Luca Marini will be on a podium once in a sprint, a race, maybe both, who knows. And as I said earlier, I totally agree with the testing and the budget Honda has. It looks like they're approaching it correctly. The bike is lighter, the bike is longer, more aero. And if they figure out the engine, if they figure out the electronics, they can really be competitive again. I really believe this. And as I said, Luca Marini, I believe, is the right man for the job. And he definitely can be on the podium. And therefore, I think that this is my bold prediction: sprint and or main race podium for Luca Marini. I don't have quite as much confidence in Joan Mir. Don't know why, but he never struck me as the best rider in MotoGP. Like the way he won the 2020 title, the way he defended his title, then on the Honda, it never really surprised me too much. Even in Moto2, he wasn't particularly impressive. So I don't know. But yeah, let's go to the final round and then we are done with the bold predictions. Keelan, your third one.
I would argue this is my boldest prediction of any of them. Jimmy's come close to touching on it, but he didn't quite get there. Yamaha will win a race.
Ooh. What if Alex Rins is the first rider to win with 3 different manufacturers?
What
And
if
do it
Alex
in
Rins?
3 consecutive years?
What if Alex Rins wins in Austin again on a different manufacturer
And beats Marc Marquez?
and
Imagine.
beats Marc Marquez with Pitbull waving the flag?
Yeah, that might happen. Yeah.
I hate myself for indulging that.
I would love it to happen. What's your third one?
Well, this isn't very bold now after listening to Keelan's. But yeah, I've got Acosta will score more points than Jack Miller.
That's a good pick. I like that.
Because if you think about it, I mean, people say, well, we're sure about him doing something like that. But at the same time, Jack has got podium potential, always will do. No matter how many times he crashes, he can still pull something out of the bag. So, and his experience. So I think Acosta beating him would still be a good accomplishment, personally. And I think he will do it.
I think Pedro will be the best KTM.
Wow. Okay. And why do you think he's better? Why do you think he'll beat Brad?
I think Brad Binder is not as good as people believe he is.
Oh, that's very bold, Leo. You're getting into
And
dangerous
I
territory here.
think Pedro is far better than people will give him credit for. I mean, look at his career. His first race, he was second in Qatar, a track he never raced at. His second race, he won from the pit lane. Won the Moto3 championship in his first season. Moto2 Rookie of the Year. For his standards, a bad season, where he ended up, where was he? Third in the World Championship. And then went on to totally dominate the Moto2 championship. This guy never had a bad season. And I believe if KTM gives him a good bike that he can learn very quickly, and because he's so talented, he was like instantly faster than Fabio. And Pedro did a 10-lap sprint simulation where every single lap was faster than Alex Marquez's fastest race lap during the sprint. So he is fucking good. And I think that he will be outscoring Brad Binder. And I honestly don't think Brad Binder is as good as people believe him to be. If you put him on the Ducati, he wouldn't compete with Pecco, he wouldn't compete with Inea, he wouldn't compete with Marc Marquez, he wouldn't compete with Jorge Martin. So I just think Brad Binder is good at extracting the most out of this shitbox KTM. But if you put a real rider on it, like Pedro, like a generational talent, I think he will smoke everybody, including Brad Binder.
Okay. Bold.
But who
Very
the fuck
bold.
knows?
I think he is better than him. I agree there. I just think Brad. Brad has said a few times that he has to be more aggressive. He has to be more aggressive. And quite honestly, Brad should have won 2 Grand Prix last year if he was more aggressive. He could have.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
He should exactly, and he shoulda won at Jerez.
I mean,
he won the sprint, but he should have won the Grand Prix.
We are talking about a guy who won 2 MotoGP races in his whole career. One in Brno and during COVID in 2020 was super impressive. And the other one, I don't want to call it lucky because he was super skillful in this.
Balls.
But it was very strange circumstances, and under normal circumstances, he never would have won this race. So, yeah, very bold race that he has ridden there in Austria. So, I think somebody like Miguel Oliveira showed how good the KTM can be on good days. And Brad always was like good at extracting the most out of a not very competitive package. And even last year, where we thought, okay, maybe KTM is there, he didn't really got past Pecco. He didn't really do too much with the potential and the momentum he had at the beginning of the season. So I think Pedro will, especially towards the end of the season, once he figured everything out, he will be better than Brad Binder. And I think at the end of the year in the standings, he will be a little bit better. Maybe not by far. Maybe he won't win the championship in his rookie season, sadly. But I think he will be better than Brad.
Fair enough. And you've just reminded me about Oliveira winning in the dry at Catalonia.
Yeah.
And people forget about that so easily. And he won
Miguel
it in
is
bone
a
dry conditions.
motherfucker.
Yeah.
Do you want to know a funny Miguel Oliveira story?
Yes.
Does it wait? Does it involve his significant other?
No.
Okay.
The funny story is, my girlfriend and I, we were in 2021 in Portimao, and we watched this whole championship drama in Moto3 going down, Remy winning in Moto2, which was awesome. And then we flew to Valencia because we wanted to see the last race when the Moto2 championship was decided. And we hopped on a plane. And for German standards, we have pretty high standards over here when it comes to cars, airplanes, whatsoever. We stepped into an absolute shitbox of a plane.
Was it Ryanair?
No, it wasn't Ryanair. It was some.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised.
It was some Portuguese airline.
Oh.
I never flew with a propeller airplane before. It had propellers.
God, really?
And we flew from Porto to Valencia. I believe we flew from Faro to Porto with a normal plane, and then from Porto to Valencia with this shitbox of a plane. And honestly, we were both like the tires weren't properly inflated and stuff, so it was bad. We were joking like we are gonna crash. This will be the last day we live on this earth together. And then we figured out that Miguel Oliveira was on the same plane, and that calmed us down a lot because we thought, okay, if Miguel flies with this airline, it shouldn't be this bad. And honestly, we landed safely. It was a very surprisingly fun flight. And afterwards, we talked a little bit with Miguel. He was super friendly.
Nice.
And yeah, that's how I met Miguel Oliveira, and he saved probably me from having a heart attack in this fucking shitbox of a plane. Like, those cars you don't use anymore in Europe that get shipped to Africa. It looked like a plane you don't use anymore gets shipped to Portugal.
Oh dear. Yeah, it's nice. It is nice when you see riders in person. Sometimes I don't know whether to speak to them. Like, oh no, I don't want to be that guy, But yeah, it's good that on a plane. I guess you can speak to them. They're not surrounded by a load of people who recognize them, are they? So.
Actually, it was while we were waiting for our luggage.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
And I figured out that talking to riders on a race weekend is the worst possible scenario to talk to them. Like, they're super stressed and everybody wants something from them everywhere, cameras and stuff, and they have so many meetings with sponsors, with their team, with all of this shit you have to do during a race weekend. And if you catch them personally, for example, at a place like Rocco's Ranch in Barcelona or the airport, whatever, super nice people.
Yeah, but I mean, I
We'll give
suppose
it a
it's the
try.
same for any sports person. When they're in their environment, they're going to be a certain way. They're amped up. They want to focus and they want to be at their best. But if you get them in any other environment, they're just, I mean, for the most part, they're just like normal people. They're very pleasant. I mean, I haven't met a MotoGP rider. It would be very nice to, but I'm more than happy to take your word for that. I'm sure that's like a lot of people.
I once got an interview with Bradley Smith because he was at the hotel lobby at Brno in 2014 on the Thursday. I was with my cousin, and this is when I was doing my blogging first time. And she said, "Go and speak to him. He's okay. He looks all right. Just go and see if he's got 5 minutes." I was like, "No. He's got his bags. You can tell he's got off the plane." So anyway, I went over to him and he said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do a few minutes. Where's it going?" I said, "Oh, it's my own blog." "Yeah, okay, that's fine." I was like, "Oh shit." So I got 5 minutes from Bradley. He was brilliant. He was really good with me, and he could have just said, "No, leave me alone," And he didn't. So yeah, that was nice. And I got on like 5 questions in with Bradley Smith, and I wasn't prepared because I didn't think I'd see him in the lobby, so I had to sort of make it up on the spot. So that was nice.
Yeah, and like, what do you have to lose?
Exactly.
The worst thing
I'm pretty sure she said that to me.
no.
She says, "What you got to lose?"
Yeah.
I'd have only regretted it if I didn't do it. So
Yeah, I remember seeing Pedro for the first time, and I was like super nervous. But then after, like, I got to know him a little bit, and this last year at Rocco's Ranch, when I went there, we had like a super chill conversation. He told
sorry, guys. There you go.
So yeah, Pedro was super chill. We talked about his new dog and stuff, and it was quite funny because, like, at Rocco's, there's like a parking space a little bit off where the riders park, and Remy and Pedro were in there at their van and talking, and my girlfriend and I went to the toilet, and it's like halfway. And I was like to her, "Look, there's Remy and Pedro." She's like, "Off we go," and because she was shit faced, and she just started talking with them, and then I joined and thought, okay, I won't leave her alone there, because I was a little bit hesitant, thinking like, okay, they have their little private space there at the
Yeah.
moment. Maybe you should let them talk, but she didn't have those those thoughts in the second. So yeah, we just had a very nice conversation, and Pedro super chill dude, Remy super chill, Paul Espargaro I met super chill, and Diogo Moreira super nice, Alexis Krieg mega nice, Alex Milan super nice person, Colin super nice, Zonta super nice. I mean, I literally made no bad experiences with riders. So
Yeah. And those current lineup providers.
I have
yeah,
to admit, though, Jimmy, that's really cool about the Bradley Smith story because you hear a lot of mixed stories about Bradley. Some people have great experiences with him, some people say really negative things, but it's nice to know that, the good seems to outweigh the bad. So I'm glad you bring that up because that seems to be a pretty common theme with Bradley. But yeah, he seems like an interesting dude for sure.
I might have just caught him at a decent moment. 2014, he was having a good year actually.
That's
Yeah.
true, he was.
Yeah, because Cal had gone to Ducati, and he was teammates with Paul Espargaro that year. I think he was out. It takes 3 months to take, and I think he was outperforming him a lot. And I think a lot of people thought Paul would be beating him, being Moto2 champion, going on to an M1. So yeah, maybe it's quite a good time. But that was nice. Yeah, I've Sam Lowe's a few times as well. He always had time for me when I if I ever caught him in the paddock in these races where I could get a pass, and I knew Sharon Binder and Brad Binder, so I could get Brad, but this was only when he was in Moto3 Ambrosio Racing. He always had time for me, and Darren now and again as well. I did Darren times. But the last time I spoke to Brad Binder was Mugello 2015, so a long time ago. And the rest is history.
I think it totally depends on the situation where you catch them. Like, for example, when me and my girlfriend are in a competition and she's like in competition mode, I wouldn't want to meet her there for the first time because I would think, what a bitch. But she doesn't even talk to me. Like, she's logged in. But when you talk to her like outside of her sport, totally nice. So I guess it's the same with everybody. Like, you have good days, you have bad days, and at the end of the day, it totally depends on how you approach somebody. Like, for example, I've seen people sticking cameras into Remy's face where they didn't even ask before if they could take a photo. He was just doing stuff, and they were standing beside him like a fucking statue at a museum making selfies while he was literally doing something else. They didn't even ask politely, "Hey, Remy, do you have a second?" Hey, or didn't even properly introduce themselves. Like, that's when you see something from the outside, you kind of reflect, okay, if I'm in this situation, I would do this and this. And therefore, if you approach somebody politely, like, "Hey, do you have a second?" Then you introduce yourself, say, "I'm a big fan," talk to them about a little bit, ask them what you want to know. Usually they're super, super nice people. But if you're a dickhead and interrupt them into whatever they're doing and stick a camera into their face or shout something, of course you will get a negative reaction.
Yeah, and you did probably deserve it as well.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah.
Is there anything left from your list that you wanted to talk about, Jimmy, except the predictions for Qatar? Because I think when we do the predictions, we can end the podcast quite nicely.
Yeah,
And then
on that count. I was gonna say, do you think we'll see in the pecking order for Moto 2 and Moto 3 a change from normal because of the tyres? Sorry, guys, no, we're talking about tyres again because of me. But do you think the
no,
tyres?
100%.
Yeah. Okay. That was more or less. Yeah.
What Leo said.
Okay, that was simple enough then. That's fine. That's pretty much it. Apart from the fact that obviously, the Qatar predictions.
Okay, so do you want to start with your predictions?
Yeah, unless you meant yeah. No, I won't start.
Okay. Shall I start?
Because I didn't know how you wanted to do this, so I didn't know if it was going to be blended in with the other ones. But yeah, you start, or someone else start.
Okay. I think in MotoGP that Enea Bastianini will win. I think, like, main race, I think Pecco will finish second, and I think Fabio Di Gianantonio will finish third. In the sprint, I think Pecco will win. Jorge Martin second, and Enea third. So I go all Ducati.
I was going to do the same thing, and I think you'd be an idiot to be wrong. I'm going to go Pecco for the win, and I think Mark is going to be second because I think Enea is going to go wide, and at turn one because someone's going to go wide at turn one. They always someone at Qatar goes wide, right, and wrecks their race.
You remember when Paul threw away the win in Qatar on the Honda?
Yeah, do you know what? Me and Alex had this conversation a couple of episodes ago, and we were saying everyone forgets that we say about how bad the Repsol Honda was at the start of 2022. Was it 22? He was at that race, 2022. Led for ages, absolutely ages.
Yeah.
But the point remains that you can mess up, go wide onto where it's sandy, a dirty part of the track, and I think, and I don't know why I'm envisioning what it's going to be him. It's like betting, and I think Mark will finish second, and Anaya will finish third. And in the sprint, I'm going to go for Digia, Martin, and Binder.
Keelin?
So for the sprint, I think it's going to be Martin wins, Paco second, Binder third. And then for the main race, I think Digi wins. I have Paco second, and I have Marquez third.
Interesting. So you're the only one without a KTM, right? With not all Ducati, sorry, with a KTM.
Yeah, I think with Binder, I think Binder's aggressive enough to be on the pace for a sprint without, compromising his tires or anything like that. And I think he's got that pace to get onto the podium for the sprint. But when it comes to the full race, I just think the Ducatis will start streaking ahead and he won't be able to get it back.
Well, see, I said Brad for the sprint podium. Don't forget, but I think there's too many good Ducati riders now for him to do it in Qatar. Having said that, Brad was second behind Anea in 2022.
Yes.
Things changed. Time moves on, but I think Brad can be up there definitely. Yeah.
I think Pedro.
Sorry.
No, I thought you were done. I'm sorry. Didn't want to interrupt you.
I don't think Mark's very good at Qatar, but I still think he will surprise us. I think there's a moment in qualifying where Mark's going to be 3 red sectors. I think there's going to be a moment oh, it's happening. I can see it. And we think, shit, he's going to do it. He's going to get pole. I think Mark will get front row. He might get pipped at the ends there at qualifying. I think there'll be a moment where Mark's like, he's still got it. That would not surprise me. It might be a bit like, I want it to happen for the sport's sake, but I can still see it happening.
I think Qatar will benefit those rookies / people on a new, or riders on a new manufacturer, who tested there. Like basically everybody except Frankie. So I think Pedro will have a good race. I think Mark has the potential to have a good race. I think, maybe Honda is better than they should be. Maybe Alex Rins can close the gap to Fabio more than he would if he didn't test there. Like this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think would be definitely worth it. So yeah, I guess we have everything covered. And I'm very excited to approach a new season, making memes on Twitter now, like fuck Instagram. And maybe I will get it back. I'll have to have some lawyers involved and stuff. Because the thing is, I was in contact with Dorna, and Dorna wrote to Meta, "What's up?" and they didn't even respond to Dorna. So that was quite rude. And therefore, I kind of lost interest in Instagram. But yeah. And I'm very, very glad that you joined us, Jimmy. Sadly, without Alex, maybe we can do it a second time. And I'm really excited to see how this season goes. Thank you, Keelin, for joining me again. We will have a wonderful season reviewing all the races. And there are some adjustments I would like to make, lessons learned from last season. And I wish you everybody a great evening. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me. And see you soon after the first race.
Thanks for having me.